let's get it started here, Joe. Game number one we'll talk about. It's actually a Sunday game between the Los Angeles Rams and the Chicago Bears. 6:30 start. Let me just dip into here and take a look at some of these conditions that we might be anticipating in weather. 19 degrees, Joe, but no precipitation and 8 to 9 mile an hour winds. Not bad. It's actually a beach day in Chicago at this point. But a Dome team is going outdoors. The opening number, Joe, around 3.5. Most outlets still sitting at 3.5 in a total of 50.5. The Bears with an epic comeback. The Rams saving the best for last in Carolina. Let's get an early week spread line for you, Joe, for the Sunday game this weekend.
Yeah, it's we've seen the total tick down here a little bit in this one from the opening of 51.5, but it stayed steadfast at 3.5 here, Donnie. So we haven't gone under that, but one has to wonder at what point is the Rams money going to start coming in here and maybe drive this thing up a little bit, or is it going to be the Bears? I mean, have the Bears turned a corner? They didn't get much public love the first go-around, Donnie, it appeared there in that opening round win against Green Bay, because everybody thought Green Bay was going to handle business, and they did for, well, just about until the final 4 minutes of the fourth quarter there, Donnie. But the Bears just keep finding a way. This one, I'm really interested to see where this line goes here. Have the Bears finally become public favorites enough where this thing is going to get driven down to a field goal? I'm looking forward to watching this one during the week.
Yeah, you want to make $1 million in this game, Joe? Here's how you do it. You parlay the first half and take the Rams, and you parlay with the second half of that parlay with the Chicago Bears. I mean, the Bears are notorious for saying, we have no idea what we're doing in the first half, and in the second half, in the final 5 minutes, Caleb turns into an absolute god out there and rips it around. We'll see how that plays out, but an underdog here once again for the Chicago Bears at home as the number 2 seed. Let's go to Saturday afternoon's game here, 4:30 start, Buffalo and Denver. The Buffalo Bills, the lower-seeded team, the Denver squad. What? The 1 seed, Joe, still is an underdog. But some outlets are starting to flip that over now. You get 1.5 from the Bills. You get 1.5 from the Broncos here, a total 46.5. No respect, I tell you, for those Broncos. What's the spread line for you, Joe, for this Saturday?
Well, I mean, let's face it. This is shaping up to be very similar to what we saw with the Jacksonville Jaguar line throughout the week, right? It was Buffalo becoming very public. We saw them as a favorite for, well, at least a little while, a couple of days last week. And then right a couple hours before kickoff, boy, did that Jacksonville money come rolling in. And all of a sudden the Bills were a 2.5 point underdog by the time that game started. It feels like this is going to be the same situation here where, listen, if you like Denver, if you're thinking about Denver and teasers or things along those lines, you better hurry up, because I would think by the time we get to the end of the week, Donnie, Denver is going to be the favorite in this game. And I do think the total is also going to begin to rise here as that money starts to come in later on.
Yeah, you're talking about a team that's rested here. Also, you're taking a look at the Buffalo Bills in a tough game on the road in Jacksonville. Banged up quarterback already. They'll probably give him a rest day here this week, and we'll see what happens on that day. Now, let's get to another game, Joe. San Francisco, who beat the Philadelphia Eagles, they're moving on to take on Seattle. The NFL schedule makers didn't do them any favorites. Short week after flying to Philadelphia, now flying back, then going to have to play on a Saturday in Seattle, even more banged up than they were to start that Eagles game. This line opened up around 7. It's at 7.5 across the board as a favorite for Seattle. And the total, Joe, of 45.5. Saturday night prime time. Give me a spread line here for Niners Seahawks.
Yeah, the rematch of Week 18, which seems kind of fitting, right? Because that was the NFC West and who was going to get the bye. It seems fitting that these two teams meet here. And, you know, what if the 49ers did? Well, they just went on the road, all banged up here, losing guys left and right, and they still beat the Eagles. And now they've got a much shorter trip to make here, taking on a very familiar foe in the Seahawks here. They do reseed, don't forget, here by the time we get to this particular point, which is why they are going up against Seattle. And I find this line very interesting because Seattle was steamed into a clear road favorite against the 49ers in Week 18, Donnie. So I'm wondering at this, I mean, we saw most Look-aheads were 5.5, 6, and then we saw 7s. We saw 7.5s in a look-ahead. We're right there. To me, Donnie, this is a question of whether or not the 49ers are going to get enough love to get this thing under a touchdown. I think it likely ends up higher than that. I think we get to 8, maybe even 8.5, Donnie, by the time we get to kickoff.
Yeah, we'll see what happens here. Third game we'll talk about Sunday, 3 o'clock here. And some of these times changing over the years, changing with tradition. We're supposed to have the 1 and 4 o'clock games, 4:25 games. This one's a 3 o'clock game. It's Houston, who you saw last night decimate the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now going to take on the New England Patriots, who played some pretty good defense of their own against the Los Angeles Chargers. Line opened up 2.5, Joe. Still sits 2.5. The favorite for the 2 seed, the New England Patriots over Houston. What's your spread line early in the week for this game on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it should be noted, right? I mean, 2 defensive touchdowns last night by the Texans, but they did rack up over 400 yards of offense there. But the 3 turnovers have to stop in that spot if this is going to be anywhere close. Just home field advantage here, right? Basically, we're seeing look ahead was 2.5, maybe 3. And that's kind of what we're seeing in the market here, Donnie. But this also feels like a game where a lot of under money is going to hit the board. So I think this might land under 40 when it's all said and done.
The Mike Tomlin question, maybe tied at the hip with Aaron Rodgers, because you saw the press conference last night after the game. Aaron Rodgers said, you got to be crazy for getting rid of Mike Tomlin. And it feels like you are now officially at the crossroads for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Because if Mike Tomlin does come back, I do think Aaron Rodgers comes back for one more season. Said he really likes playing for Mike. They have a mutual respect. They won the division. They got to the playoffs. And there's something, admirable about that. But the Steelers were never about being 500 and winning division championships. That's an organization with a lot of Lombardi trophies that hasn't sniffed one in a long, long time. So for me, Joe, if Tomlin comes back, Aaron Rodgers comes back, they run it back for one more year, what's the appetite for that in Pittsburgh? But to be honest, this seems like the perfect time to say, all right, Mike, we're going to move on. Aaron, thank you for your time. We got to get younger here. We're going to tear down that high-priced aging defense, trade it for scrap, restart this franchise, and enter into a football team that you can have for the 21st century here. Now, some might say, Donnie, you are crazy. You see what the Pittsburgh Steelers do. They win every year. But trust me, as a fan for the Pittsburgh Steelers, that's not a lot of fun. From winning a couple games above 500, sneaking in a bad division into the playoffs, and then getting routed every year the minute you step on the field in the playoffs, Joe. Are you with me on maybe it's best to move on from Mike Tomlin, or are you in that camp of, you're crazy, you can't get rid of Tomlin? Where else are you going to go?
Well, again, okay, and get what exactly? The problem isn't Tomlin. The problem is the Steelers front office has put this team into football purgatory. Donnie, I mean, this is a Steelers organization for years that has been as conservative an operation as it gets. They did things the right way. They hit the reset button when they did. They went and got young quarterback, young players. They rebuilt it. They promote from within. They've done it that way from, the beginning of time. And what did they do this year, Donnie? It was like they all of a sudden they were getting drunk at the poker table at the end and just pushed all their chips on the table, because you go out in the offseason, instead of trying to rebuild a roster, get a young quarterback, right? Maybe a rookie quarterback, somebody that you can build for the future. Now, all of a sudden, you went out, you made a deal for, a 28-year-old Metcalf, a 31-year-old Jalen Ramsey, and a 30-year-old Jonnu Smith. You 31-year-old TJ Watt, who's already having issues, 36-year-old kid, and then you sign a 42-year-old quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. And what do? Great. You didn't have a losing season, but once again, you're out in the first round. To me, I don't understand the direction of the front office here. What are you doing? Like you're basically putting all the chips in the middle of a table for an aging roster that is not good enough to compete outside of, okay, we make it to the postseason barely, and we get bounced out in the first round. It's like rinse and repeat. What are they doing, Donnie?
And by the way, also, you look at Mike Tomlin, like he got hired so young. It's not like the dude is like 75 years old on his way out like Bill Belichick was. Like I asked the question this too for the Pittsburgh Steelers, where are we worried about the Tomlin streak, or you think Mike Tomlin, like as a football coach, like, okay, here's what the game plan is going to be, Mike. We're going to keep you. You can have your coordinators, but we're going to tear this football team down. And we think you're the perfect steward to fight us right through this teardown, which probably should only take 2 years. Then we'll be on the upswing again with the young football team. Isn't that an option on the table? Like, it doesn't have to be mutual exclusive that you just blow Tomlin out because you want to restart. Like, wouldn't Mike Tomlin be a great foundational piece to put in that new foundation of a team and get that second wind on his career in Pittsburgh? No?
Yes. But again, at some point here, this organization has to take the bull by the horns, Donnie, and they've got to start building for the future. Now, they have been stockpiling draft picks. I'll give them that, right? They've been doing that. But, you know, is Rodgers coming? Are you going to bring back a 43-year-old Aaron Rodgers? Is that where we're at? I'd be more worried if I was Pittsburgh that Tomlin goes, what am I doing here? Like you said, he's still young. In this hiring cycle, he immediately becomes, again, him and Harbaugh, 1A. They become the two top guys that organizations will throw everything at. If I'm Pittsburgh, you got to be worried about Tomlin throwing the towel and be like, I'm done here. Like, this is not working at all. I don't know the direction you guys are heading, but none of it is about winning football games here for the long term. Not with this roster.
Yeah, we'll keep talking about this Mike Tomlin if there is a situation, which, again, Pittsburgh doesn't fire head coaches all that much. We'll find out later in the week if we do have any changes, but I'm pretty sure you'll hear one way or another over the next 24 hours, like, yeah, Mike's not going anywhere, or breaking news from Adam Schefter, Mike Tomlin and the Steelers amicably part ways. We'll find out. But the NFL, they're going to have 4 more games this weekend, 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. Joe, let me ask you this question. I always like to say, make me commissioner. The NFL needs to be a better partner with college football. And college football season goes on a little bit too long. Like the FCS playoffs, Joe, they've been done for a while. We're still waiting on the NCAA champion for Division I here. Those changes can be made, but hear me out. Saturday, why do we have 4:30 and 8:30 here? The NFL, 1 o'clock game, 4 o'clock game, NCAA national championship on a Saturday night at 8 o'clock, and then you have the 2 Sunday games. Can the NFL be a better partner to college football so we all win, so we don't have to wait to a Monday night football game? It could just be an absolute party weekend of football. Am I in the wrong, Joe?
Listen, the NFL could care less about college football, and they could certainly care less about the NBA. Remember, the NBA was supposed to, you can have every other day, NFL. Just give us Christmas, and they can't even do that. So they're gluttonous, and they want it all for themselves. So college football be there. How in the world is a college football national championship game not on Saturday? I'm with you, Donnie. It makes no sense to me.
Again, if we would equate that to the Super Bowl was played on Sunday, right? That's what the tradition is. Can you imagine? I was like, you know what? Friday night Super Bowl here. Like, well, we'll watch it, but that's not really what football is meant to be. And you say, well, Donnie, they play on Saturdays and Mondays. I get it. But Sunday is the traditional football day where the Super Bowl is played, and over the years keeps getting pushed back later and later. But also, Joe, Sunday, 3 o'clock and 6:30. That's usually reserved for like the championship weekend the following week for the AFC and the NFC. Dude, I don't like waiting till 3 o'clock on a Sunday to get that game. And I don't need that 6:30 game where I'm tired because, oh, Donnie, you're an old man. The game gets over at 9:30. That game shouldn't get over at 9:30 on Sunday night. Come on.
I agree. Well, yeah, I mean, that it should be a national holiday on Monday, right? Isn't that what we've been screaming at for years? Like, can we just all get off on Monday? Would be fantastic. But yeah, no, that's not going to happen either. It's all about eyeballs, Donnie. And don't forget what it's in San Francisco this year. So it really will only be 6 o'clock by the time that game kicks off there.
And by the way, San Francisco, that stadium is horrible, man. The Super Bowl is in there. It looks, I don't know what type of commission built that or what type of architecture firm. They ought to be sued out of their mind. That place looks like an erector set out there. It looks terrible. Just wanted to get that off my chest here. Let's move on to some other hot topics. Ben Johnson, that's a rivalry. And he's been known in the NFC North at Detroit to hate himself some Green Bay. He let loose, man. Blank them. Hate those guys. How about that?
Love this, Donnie. Absolutely. We need more of this back in sports. We do. We need this in the NBA. We have it in baseball, which is great. We've never kind of lost that, but we need more of this rivalry. There has to be villains in pro sports, Donnie. If there's not, then it becomes background noise and nobody becomes interested if everyone is happy with one another. So, yeah, Ben Johnson, give me more. Hate everybody, Ben. I love it.
Exactly. And how about Herbert out here on the West Coast taking blame for yet another playoff loss? Is he going to come out with an Instagram story about him and Madison Beer saying we apologize because we're just not focused on football as much as we could be, Joe? Huh?
I mean, listen, it's very hard for me to say anything bad about a guy that, broke his hand, had surgery, and played in 4 days. Like, it's just, the guy is as tough as nails, but unfortunately, the supporting cast around him wasn't that great here with all the injuries this season.
How about Jalen Hurts? He don't want to endorse his offensive coordinator, Kevin Patullo.
Shocker.
Nobody's endorsing that guy. We all knew it was a bad marriage, but also at the same time, Jalen, you can be a little bit better as well. It's not all the coordinator's fault. Some of those passes, some of those options. And by the way, the fact that I can beat you now, Jalen Hurts, in a race, that says something as well.
Yeah, it was Sirianni's buddy. I mean, I don't know why, Howie Roseman and company allowed him to even choose it to begin with, but okay. But yeah, changes are coming in Philly.
By the way, Joe, we like the evolution of time. You can go back with a nice little trend. How about really good offensive coordinator, make the Super Bowl? Really bad one, don't make the Super Bowl. Really good one, you make the Super Bowl. Really bad one, don't make the Super Bowl. How about next year? A really good coordinator, get back to the Super Bowl. More hot topics on the way next. More news and notes around the NFL. We saw a game on Sunday down there in Jacksonville. Boy, what a game it was. Comeback here for Jacksonville. Only to see another comeback for the Buffalo Bills, but there will be no comeback for Gabe Davis, who came back to the Buffalo Bills this season. Except for the torn ACL versus the Jaguars. You saw that hit whenever that leg gets bent a certain direction. You see him hobble off. You expect the worst, and they got the worst. Gabe Davis down for the season and possibly next year as well, and maybe that's a career for Gabe Davis.
Yeah, that just unfortunate too, because he's made ever since he came back, he's made some big time catches and big time plays there for Josh Allen. They've got synergy, those two, but now they're down another wide receiver, so they're going to have to game plan accordingly against this Denver defense coming up, and they're going to have to do it without one of the deep shot threats now.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun game to watch. More on Josh Allen's playing just the way it is here. The Patriots, they're moving on, but also could be without their best cornerback in Christian Gonzalez, making his first Pro Bowl this season. He's in concussion protocol. Here's what I love, Joe. Football players are football players. Coaches and organizations want to win. If this is week 5, there's no shot that he makes it through concussion protocol in a week because it's pretty much standard now. You get a concussion, you're out at a minimum of 1 week and maybe 2 to 3 weeks, depending on if you had a concussion history. What are the odds for you, Joe, that Christian Gonzalez stays in concussion protocol and misses this playoff game? What would you put that percentage at?
Yeah, I don't know that he is missing anything here. They will either the current doctor or one that they choose will okay him at some particular point here, and he's going to want to play, but short of anything crazy, he's likely going to be out on the field for him.
It's insane. Like I always say this, like concussions, like they didn't diagnose them back in my day. Like I played Pee Wee football in the 80s, high school football and college football in the 90s. And I'm going to tell you this honestly. I only saw one time, Joe, in my years, I don't know, 10 or 12 years, whatever I played football for, that there was one diagnosed concussion in 12 years of football. So I don't know how many eye concussions I had at this point, but it is a little bit interesting. If you don't know you have one or you feel a little bit down, or I've had hits in my life where it's like, man, something just isn't right. But the fact that they diagnosed you with a concussion, that's scary though, isn't it? Like, hey, I just got one last week. Like I could scramble my brain again this week and then my career could be done or my effects down the road. But man, these guys are absolute mercenaries at times. Just put me back in, coach. I don't care.
Yeah, and they've done optically, they've done all they can do here to try and mitigate the concussions and those types of things. But it's one thing to pull a player off the field in week 3, Donnie. It's a whole nother thing to keep him out during a Super Bowl run here, which is the point of the season we're at.
And by the way, this was, I'm going to go to, let's call it 1998. And you know how we knew the kid had a concussion on my team during the game? It was carried out on a stretcher. That's how they diagnose concussions. That's back in the day, Joe. I mean, we live in a certain different time right now with diagnosis.
Totally different.
I mean, totally different. 4 games this weekend. If I ask you, Joe, Buffalo, Denver, San Francisco, Seattle, Houston, New England, Los Angeles, and Chicago. If we do the meter of which game does Joe think will be the most intriguing game and a must-watch on Joe Ranieri's table this weekend, which one is it?
Yeah, well, they're all very intriguing, right? In their own right, Donnie, because they all have a lot of narratives and storylines around them. I think a lot of people are going to look at the Bears game and they're going to say, all right, the Bears, like this whole thing is, you're not going to keep doing this. Or maybe they can, but it's all a house of cards here. I think there are some teams that a lot of people in the postseason right now that remain think maybe just, listen, your time is coming here. You know, the 49ers, how many games can they win with a depleted roster like this? How many times can the Bears win games in the last? But call me crazy. I think the Buffalo-Denver game may be the most intriguing, maybe the most wildest one, because you've got a proven quarterback in Josh Allen taking on a number one defense. And Josh Allen, the thing on him is he has always played his best football against the best defenses that he has faced. Buffalo gets into trouble when they're better than the team that they play. But in this spot here, this is going to be an all-out war. And I think the winner of that game could very likely move on to be one of the favorites to win it all when it's all said and done.
Give me the bookend games, Joe. Give me the first game of the weekend, 4:30 on Saturday, Buffalo and Denver. Very intrigued for me. Give me the next game the last game on Sunday, which is the 6:30 game, Rams and the Chicago Bears. I'm intrigued by those. I'm not saying I'm not going to watch all four games. I'm going to love every bit of it. San Francisco, Seattle, 7.5-point spread. The engine that could, the San Francisco 49ers. That's sort of fun. Houston, New England should be a good game. But when I just look at like explosive fireworks and, oh my goodness, did you see this? It's probably because Caleb makes throws we don't see. Matthew Stafford is a gunslinger. Superstars all over the field for the Rams. And then Buffalo, you just want to watch what Josh Allen does. That dude is a freak that basically says, I don't need any help around me. I'll win this myself. And then the upstart Denver Broncos at home in elevation with Bo Nix, who's trying to go toe-to-toe like he's the next generation of quarterbacks in the NFL. So for me, Buffalo, Denver, Los Angeles, Chicago, that's the way I'm rolling with it this weekend, Joe.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I could even make the argument maybe that the Texans and the Patriots also should be maybe the last game when it's all, you know what I mean? Or even back-to-back here, because I think it used to be, Donnie, wasn't it AFC one day, NFC the next, or it, way back in the day, it was like, all right, let's figure out who the AFC is. Let's figure out who the NFC is. And then we wait 6 weeks and we play a Super Bowl. This should be very, very interesting weekend because you've got a lot of public opinion looking at these teams remaining, Donnie. And we know what they have thought all the way through to the season. Is Buffalo gonna keep being the public darling? Out of sight, out of mind. How much love is Denver or Seattle gonna get since nobody's seen them now in a couple of weeks? So I'm gonna be interested to see this line movement throughout the week with these teams.
Also, weather conditions in Denver for this game, 45 degrees, Joe. No precipitation in the forecast. Winds under 5 miles an hour. A great slate. Seattle for this weekend, Joe. Quick weather update for their game. 50 degrees, no rain, and 2-mile-an-hour winds. Then we flip it over to Sunday in New England. 35-degree temperatures, no rain or snow in the forecast, around 10-mile-an-hour winds, so not too bad there. And then the final game, the Chicago Bears, that Sunday night game, 19 degrees, no precipitation, and also winds around 8 miles per hour. Like, you're not going to get one of those games, freezing cold conditions, crazy windy conditions where you can't perform. Should be clean for all these teams, and that's all we ask for at this point. Predictive markets, an interesting way to look at maybe investing money and making money. Isn't that the goal after all? It's Donnie Wright said it's Joe Ranier. Let's dip our toes into the water of some interesting hot topics here, which includes the Miami Dolphins. They are looking for a head coach. And if we take a look at Kalshi, I don't know if you want to waste money, but it feels like you might do it. Here's the problem. Sometimes where there's smoke, there's fire. And just like in the stock markets, hey, that hot stock is rising here. Jeff Hafley is a defensive coordinator that's well thought after. He was terrible in that game against the Chicago Bears. But did you know the director of player personnel for the for the Green Bay Packers is now the general manager of the Miami Dolphins? We're connecting dots here. Hafley, 32% chance, up 12% in the recent days to be the new head coach of the Miami Dolphins, Joe. Say it ain't so. We're going defense in Miami. Come on.
What's the difference? They don't have a quarterback. I mean, at this point, you're rebuilding the team anyway. And as a new GM in that spot, you're going to want to have somebody that, you're familiar with and that you trust. And, it makes sense. It really does, because it's not like he's going to be tasked with trying to reinvent Tua. There's going to be a lot of change in Miami, unlike some other teams like Pittsburgh, who just signs 42-year-old quarterbacks, they are going to hit the reset button. They're going to do it with a new front office. And I like Halfley. To tell you the truth, I like him. I mean, I think the guy deserves a shot.
Boo. He lost me money, Joe. Recency bias over here for DRS. Get that guy out of town. By the way, you bring up some good points on this. Comfortability always works. Like typically when you see a head coach get a job in the NFL, he's going to bring a lot of guys from the previous staff, unless there's that unwritten rule. You know what that unwritten rule is? Andy Reid. Hey, look, you can leave, but you're not taking anybody with you. That's just the way we do business around here, and everybody usually holds up to that. But if Hafley comes to town, you see a perfect working relationship with the general manager. I'm not saying it works, but it's a good level. If you're a brand new general manager, like John Harbaugh is in line number 2 with a 13% chance. Do you think as a first-time general manager, you want the presence of John Harbaugh that's basically going to be able to overrule you in every decision at your beck and call at this point? We saw that in Philadelphia. Like, hey, Howie Roseman's the GM. Chip Kelly came to town and banished Howie Roseman. General managers want to have a say. They don't just want to have the coach run over them. So maybe it is just that comfortability with Hafley. A $100 investment on Hafley, pays back $313. He's the favorite in the clubhouse right now. Boy, the NFL, like every kid should grow up. Like, you know, hey, well, I'm a kid. I want to be a teacher. I want to be a firefighter, police officer. I want to be the president of the United States. Like, that's what you say as a 5-year-old kid. We're going to teach these kids to grow up and be good quarterbacks. Maybe that's hard to do. But, hey, kid, just get into the NFL somehow and get into those circles. You have a lot of fun. Because we look at jobs where we have to show up to. We have to perform. And if we don't perform, we absolutely get fired. Well, players do get fired, and it's hard to make the NFL. We get that. But when you're in ownership or you're royalty in a franchise, you just get positions made for you. Like Matt Ryan, I'm sure he knows a ton about football. He's now the president of football operations, almost similar to what we saw for the Denver Broncos, which, by the way, worked out when you did have a superstar quarterback like John Elway and a legendary guy in the franchise, won a couple Super Bowls. But as you saw over the years, like, what is your actual job? And it turned out it was, you know, hanging out with your friends in the organization, grabbing beers in the afternoon, charging steaks to the organization, interviewing a couple guys, and just having fun. Matt Ryan, president of football operations Atlanta. It has to be the greatest job in the history of sports. You're not even the general manager. You're probably going to be paid a couple $1 million to sit next to Arthur Blank and go, yeah, I like that quarterback. Okay, there's your job for the week. Done and done.
We've always known the NFL to be a copycat league. It's what they do, right? And we already knew, right? We had, Tom Brady with the Raiders. Then we learned that Troy Aikman leaving the booth or in the booth, as well as consulting with the Miami Dolphins. And now you have Matt Ryan, who will be leaving television to go to the front office. All of this is all a byproduct because Brady got involved. Now you got Aikman. Now you got Ryan. But all of this isn't the first time we've seen this, Donnie. Remember John Elway? He was like one of the first guys that he went from quarterback and he was very good at it. So it's like the owners here are saying, not really happy with the general manager pool of talent that we have to choose from. So they're going to go a proven way. I mean, Elway killed it in the front office of Denver, and it looks like a lot of these owners are hoping former great quarterbacks can do the same for them.
By the way, Elway was about that business, too. Like, they were actually winning playoff games with Tim Tebow, and John Elway's like, this guy can't play. Like, we got to get a better quarterback, and we moved on, obviously, to Peyton Manning and won a Super Bowl. But, like, some of these do actually work. Some of them absolutely do not work. Like, the track record right now for Tom Brady, horrendous right now out there in Las Vegas. Maybe Ryan can add that to it. But, like, what a great job. Like, being the front office of a football team. Like, you're just playing fantasy general manager every single day of your life, and you're Matt Ryan. So even if you do get fired, oh no, where am I going to live? I don't have any money. The dude's made hundreds of millions of dollars already at this point. So, hey, I'm going to be a hater, but congratulations on Matt Ryan. They did a great job here. How about the Green Bay Packers? Great job to be their head coach. And boy, they just collapsed. But Green Bay's like, that's no big deal, Matt. Come on back. Let's work out a deal. Let's extend you here. The Packer-friendly, faithful, they love you too, or do they at this point? Look, as a fan, I don't want to hear my coaches coming back after getting beat like that. I just don't.
Yeah, it's rough. But again, what's the options here? Extend them because listen, he has single-handedly been the one that is, your franchise quarterback is all about LaFleur. Like he is, gotten to this point in his career because of LaFleur. And, injuries were a big part of what happened to Green Bay this year. I think even if they give him the extension, Donnie, he's still, the pressure is on from this point on. He cannot keep melting down in the biggest games they will pay him, but they will move on from him at some particular point. So he has got really no more room for error, I think, moving forward, even if he gets the extension.
Yeah, fire just to fire somebody. I think we're always on the same page, Joe, because it's like, get him out of here, and be like, all right, let's bring in Brian Flores. Like, okay, what did that handle? Or let's bring in a passing coordinator from the Los Angeles Rams because he just is in touch with Sean McVay. Like, be careful what you wish for and how you restart it, because it's always tough when you have a franchise like the Packers, which, Greg, like, they're Super Bowl or bust. Like, well, I know that. Yes, they are. Their expectations are win the division, make the playoffs, and make a deep run, which is basically Super Bowl or bust. I don't think it's all on Matt LaFleur, but it's just hard, like 24 hours after the game. Like, okay, let's work on bringing the guy back after an epic collapse at that point. But we'll see how they turn to. And again, be careful what you wish for. You just might get it. And it might be even worse than what you thought it was going to be. Mike McDaniel interviewed with the Atlanta Falcons. Multiple interviews. The Falcons are moving fast right now at this point, but that's Mike McDaniel's in and out. It's going to be interesting to see where he ends up landing, because there's a lot of jobs out there, and he's still well thought out. Or well throughout the league. Is that a spot for him in Atlanta? Because it does make some sense.
Hey, listen, if you have a young quarterback, I would want McDaniel in some capacity to be a part of my organization to help that quarterback. And Penix Jr., if he can stay healthy, you know, he would benefit from a guy like McDaniel. And I said, listen, the guy is the quirkiest dude you will ever meet, ever. You know, it may be less time up at the podium, but he's got the experience of being a head coach now in Miami, and how that team did not quit on him, how he still got that team once he got rid of a couple of bad apples in that locker room and wasn't afraid to sit Tua and tell him he ain't good enough. You got to give the guy respect. I think he's going to land a job sooner than later, especially with a team that has a young quarterback.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And also other interviews there with the Atlanta Falcons, John Harbaugh. So let me ask you this question. If you had your choice of Mike McDaniel or Harbaugh, which way would you go? Because Harbaugh, you know, is going to come in and set a really good foundation. But I don't need the foundation. Like, I feel the foundation is already set in Atlanta, where your only goal is to get Michael Penix to be the best quarterback he can be. And I don't know if Harbaugh can do that, just being honest.
No, Harbaugh, to me, makes the most sense with the Giants. I think that's the Giants have lacked leadership and stability and a lot of the other traits that, you know, this organization once stood for. He represents all of that, right? So he is the guy. I think it's not just the X's and O's, but he represents a certain stability and leadership and respect that the Giants have. Joe Judge didn't bring to the table here. Brian Daboll did not bring to the table. So I think he's the perfect fit for the Giants.
Yeah, we'll see if he ends up there, but sooner or later, that coaching carousel is going to start to move, and then it's going to get slower and slower, and before you know it, we'll be down to one coaching spot and see where some of these big-time coaches end up here. How about the Giants? Executive Chris Mara, brother of owner John Mara, told Ian O'Connor that he met with Harbaugh at his house Sunday for informal meetings. Both sides are very interested here. And by the way, let me ask you this question. Am I reading this right? Because I don't know the Giants' inner workings here. Maybe you can help me out. Chris Mara is the brother of the owner, John Mara. So is Chris Mara an owner as well? Or no? What am I missing?
Yeah, well, yes. They're all owners. Anybody, if you have the last name Mara, you're an owner at some particular point, which is why he's holding the preliminary meetings there. I think it's a great fit. I really do. Don't screw it up, Chris Mara, or any Mara for that matter. I think Harbaugh will help get this Giants organization back on track.
By the way, the interesting part about this, too, is, you know what I find? Like, John Harbaugh's earned the right. He is a hot commodity. But you see the reports coming out. It's basically John Harbaugh interviewing the organization to see if he wants to be there, not the other way around. Like, man, I would love to be in this organization. He's basically sitting down going, what can you do for me if I come to your organization? That's power moves right there, Joe.
That's what 18 years at an organization and plenty of respect will do for you. He's always done it the right way. He's handled a lot of stuff over the years. And, you know, listen, guys like him, they don't often, it's usually they go from the team they're at to retiring. They don't often become available like this. So, yeah, you get them when you can get them.
What do you think they had at lunch, Joe? Like, what do you think? Like, when you go over to the coach's house, is that a catered event? Is that I picked up Chipotle? Is it real informal? Or is it like, hey, let's get the crab legs out? Like, what does that meal look like when you head over there?
Oh, I'm sure it's all mac and cheese and finger food. Like, who are you kidding? It should be nothing but the finest top shelf bourbon known to mankind is what it should be here. Just sit for a drink in the study and make an informal conversation about it. That's all. Should be no.
Final segment of the day. Winners will be given out. We'll also get to see who you're going to be fading in the public. But I also want to talk about, Joe, one of the topics is hot across the NFL. Coaches getting fired, coaches getting hired. But more importantly at this point, this might be some turmoil in Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts doesn't really talk about Kevin Petula the way you're supposed to talk about your offensive coordinator, seemingly doesn't know his name. And, of course, the Philadelphia Eagles fans are upset about it. But sometimes you just want to hear about the Philadelphia Eagles teammates of what they're saying about what happened this year. And also, more importantly, on the team's performance. Let's get to a little bit of information here, talking with Jordan Mailata in an interview here.
A lot of people are pointing the finger at Kevin Petula, saying it's his fault, the offense did this. And what is your opinion? What is your thought on that?
Well, I said last night, I think the blame can be pointed at many places, not just one. I think for us, for myself included, I place a lot of blame on myself and the players. We're out there. We're the ones that have to execute, and we weren't doing that this year. We weren't executing at a high rate, and that's why I think it's easy for me to say, you can't just put all the blame on KP. You gotta blame the players. So we take blame in that.
Yeah,
you gotta share it.
By the way, if you didn't know, Jordan Mailata has the voice of an angel as well. Did you know, Joe?
Oh yeah, sounds it. Yeah, definitely. I was thinking angel when I was listening to that. Yeah.
There you go.
Absolutely
Look,
not.
Got a lot of word salad right there, but he's not allowed to come out and say we're going to get rid of Kevin Petula at this point. But everybody, I'm waiting for the notification that Kevin Petula is fired, like Mike McDaniel is hired, so I can enjoy the rest of my offseason. But we'll find out. But now, Joe, let's get to the. But we just heard from the people, which was Jordan Mailata. Now let's get to the real people right here. It's our Fade the Public poll. Now, here's my favorite part about the Fade the Public polls, which sometimes, there we go, it's on the screen, because we had multiple polls put out this morning on the Sports Grid Network that you could vote on, which included who you think's going to win the national championship game that somehow came out of nowhere. But the real poll, Joe, should the Steelers move on from Mike Tomlin? There's two answers on here. Yes, it's time. No dumb question. And right now, heavy votes coming in, Joe. Yes, it's time. 58%. And by the way, who voted right there? No dumb question. Who's that screenshot from? Who's revealing their ballot right there, Joe? Too.
Oh, I guess I tend to agree with whoever that was. Yeah, I tend to agree with that. Like, stop it. Like, we have to stop this whole thing. Like, it's like new is not necessarily better, especially with an organization that has been as conservative as the Pittsburgh Steelers have over the years with, in their entire history, 3 head coaches? Like, come on. It's not going to happen. And if it does, good luck with a 43. I mean, do you think a 43-year-old quarterback is signing for a new coat? No. Either you hit the reset button and you let Tomlin do what he's done his entire career and put this team together, or you got to be ready to pull the switch on it. You got to trade Watt. You got to let everybody go here, and I don't see the Steelers doing that.
Hear me out on this quickly, Joe. Mike Tomlin gets fired, hired by the Baltimore Ravens.
I kind of like that.
What do you say?
I kind of like that.
That's hot. As Paris Hilton would say,
that's what
hot.
You got to worry about.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
That's what you got to worry about.
Cleveland Browns? Here's what we're